traveling to San Antonio, Delaware, this week, Florida and Houston. That's next week. And so today we're going to talk about news and governance, risk, and compliance in news. First, the dealership fined $557,815. We're going to talk about that. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau finds unfair, deceptive, abusive acts and practices, and Tesla perhaps in trouble again. So stay tuned right after a word from our sponsor, Better Vantage Point. So welcome back. This is Tuck the Octopus, and it's named after an analogy about what it feels like to run a dealership, and that's like trying to tuck an octopus into bed, and the tentacles keep flopping all over the place. So first, Grieco Automotive has to pay a combined $557,815 fine to consumers in the Rhode Island Office of the Attorney General. They signed an agreement settling deceptive practices claims. $457,815 goes to customers, and $100,000 goes to the Attorney General's office for cost of the investigation. Grieco reported that the refund process will be, quote, seamless, with all checks being, quote, automatically sent to those affected. So this stems from two lawsuits out of the Rhode Island Attorney General's office, which were filed in March of 2022. So I'm going to take this one piece at a time. So it was filed in March of 2022, so about 18 months ago. So they've been working on this for 18 months. That means they've been distracted with this problem for 18 months. If they had, and I don't know Grieco at all, but I do know what it's like when a dealership is distracted and takes the plow out of the field and stops concentrating on selling. You sell less cars. So it took roughly 18 months to settle this, and $557,000. But let's get into the meat here. It's Grieco Honda and Grieco Hyundai of Johnston, Rhode Island, and Grieco Toyota of Providence. And they were charged by the AG's office with charging customers with add-on products that were not included in advertisements. So this affected more than 6,000 customers who say they were charged for $249 for paint and fabric spray and a warranty product known as Zurich Shield, Zurich, the insurance company. And the customers say the charge wasn't mentioned until they were in the purchase price. Grieco said the product was, quote, pre-installed and, quote, clearly disclosed on the itemized dealer invoice. The AG's office said the customers were not successful in opting out of the $249 fee. So this is a case where the advertised price on the website did not match the customer experience. So the lesson here is, if you're going to have a pre-installed price, should be advertised on your website. If you don't want to advertise it on your website, don't pre-install it. Because it's deceptive. To continue here, the July agreement, and this is from Automotive News, by the way. The July agreement also says that Grieco stores violated the Deceptive Trade Practices Act, charging customers more than vehicles in the price advertised on the website, later adding addendum fees and describing vehicles as available, quote, at auction or, quote, at wholesale prices. Apparently in Rhode Island, you can't advertise the word wholesale. The Department of Motor Vehicles prohibits dealers from using the word wholesale. The agreement that they signed also prohibits the dealership from charging customers for products or services without express informed consent. Express informed consent, folks, means that they actually sign something. They sign a document that says what they're buying. I can't tell from the information, but it would appear that the customers did not sign, so they didn't know what they were buying. It doesn't say that explicitly in the news release out of Automotive News, but you can believe that if it had been signed, that Grieco would have proffered that as a part of what they were doing. Excuse me. So they apparently they didn't, otherwise they would have said so. Grieco continued and said that consumers who didn't want to buy the Zurich Shield could have had the cost deducted from their purchase price, and in most cases, the cost was disclosed on a supplemental window sticker on each vehicle. They also said consumers did receive express conformed consent for the product, and the pricing adjustments were disclosed. Every product that's sold to a customer should be detailed on the buyer's order. It should be detailed on the Truth in Lending Act disclosure, and it should have a matching form, as I mentioned a minute ago, signed by the customer. If you don't have the form that's signed by the customer disclosing what it is, it being itemized on the buyer's order, and it being itemized on the Truth in Lending Act disclosure, you're really just asking for a problem. This is a good example. If you have any questions about this, please reach out to me by telephone, and that number is 757-434-7656. Call me anytime. I'm happy to answer your questions. As a complimentary service. The last part of this article that's important says that this agreement is part of the Attorney General's office work to protect retail automotive consumers from unfair and deceptive trade practices such as junk fees and unwanted add-on practices. And they said they are working to stop dealerships from refusing to honor car prices listed on websites and window stickers. Folks, if you have the price listed on the website, then you have to honor it. It's really that simple. This cost this dealer $557,000. It cost them, I'm sure, a ton in attorney's fees, a ton of money in distraction, and there are all kinds of lessons to be had here. This is just another example of the Attorney General. The Attorney Generals are politically motivated, and they want to make sure that they are ferreting out illegal or deceptive acts or practices that are done by car dealers. Some of these folks are politically motivated, but that has nothing to do with the fact, and so they are ambitious, but it has nothing to do with the fact when you don't do it right, you're going to get fined and you're going to have problems. Imagine those 6,000 customers. Are they going to return to these dealerships to buy more cars, to get their cars serviced? 6,000 customers. You be the judge. My opinion is likely not. There's probably a small percentage that will. But this is a public relations problem. So you take the $557,000 that they paid to the state, you take the amount of attorney's fees, which I would guess, having spent $80,000 in 1 month on attorney's fees in a certain case and been involved in that, I'd say they spent at least $200,000, maybe $300,000 on their own attorney's fees, and then the loss of profit for the 6,000 customers, and the loss of concentration on selling cars and service during the last 18 months. I mean, you come up with that number, and you reach out to me and you tell me what you think that number is. I think it's a big number. So that's part one of today's broadcast. Part two is July 26th, 2023. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and I'm reading from another release here, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau released a report which found unfair, deceptive, and abusive acts or practices across many consumer financial products. For example, auto lenders have originated loan balances above retail value of the car being purchased and engaged in illegal collection practices. Well, the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, doesn't have direct jurisdiction over car dealers unless you have a buy here, pay here operation. If you have a buy here, pay here operation as a part of your franchise dealership, then it has jurisdiction. It also has jurisdiction over used car dealers. So independent dealers are governed by this. And I'm going to read this because I think it's important to hear directly. The CFPB has observed a significant shift in auto lending. Car prices rose sharply during the recent pandemic, leading to larger loan balances, higher monthly payments, and consequently a higher rate of loan delinquencies. Examiners found that consumers were misled in marketing materials by auto lenders about the quality of the car they were eligible for under the auto lending offer. The pictured cars were often significantly larger, more expensive, and newer than the advertised loan offers were good for. So bait and switch. So these lenders were showing pictures of cars that were nicer in quality, that had more options than the actual loans that they were approving. They also found multiple instances of unfair or abusive acts and practices. Today's words, unfair, abusive acts and practices. And they're charging fraudulent interest on inflated loan balances. So lenders charge interest on loans based on fraudulent representations by dealers that the vehicle had options and enhancements it didn't have. What is that called? That's power booking. Power booking is where you're putting equipment, you're listing equipment on cars that really isn't on the car, and you're trying to get more of a draw from the bank in order to either make profit or offset negative equity or whatever it might be. So the CFPB is really telegraphing here that they are through the lenders, they are going to come after car dealers. They're telling you that here. This also relates back to a previous press release that the CFPB has put out that says that they are going to cooperate with the Federal Trade Commission. So if you don't think, since franchise dealers are not governed by the CFPB, independents are, franchise dealers with buy here, pay here are, they're going to come down on dealers for these practices. They're looking for them. They're expecting them. The CFPB is telling you in this press release from July 26th that that's what they're working on. And it goes on further. It says when servicers identified discrepancies, they did not reduce the amount that consumers owed on the loan agreement and continue to charge interest tied to financing on the non-existent options. So because of the inflated number on the loan, they are charging they're charging the lenders with the problem of continuing to charge high interest rates to the customers on non-existent equipment. So they're going to put pressure on the lenders, and the lenders in turn are going to put pressure on the dealers. And then finally on this issue, canceling automatic payments without sufficient notice leading to unavoidable late fees. Lenders did not properly notify consumers of the final payment of the auto loan, often had to be made manually. That's on the lenders. So I know that's not of particular interest to the dealers who are watching here. So the CFPB here working on that. The Attorney General in Rhode Island. Previously in, I believe it was New Hampshire, the earlier part of the year, Dan O'Brien Kia was fined $1.25 million. The Attorney General of Massachusetts, Maura Healey, who's now the governor of Massachusetts, has also been, when she was the AG, also going after car dealers. So these regulatory bodies are active. be aware that they're going to enforce the laws, and understand that if you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing, now's a good time to stop. Make sure you check your websites. Make sure make sure not only that you check your websites, but make sure you talk to your sales managers and make sure that they are training the salespeople on what the offers are. One of the biggest disconnects I see is that the sales department doesn't know what's being advertised, and sometimes customers get upset because there's poor communication from what the advertisement of the website says to what the sales manager knows to what the salesman knows. So I'd encourage you to make sure that you are training all of those people on whatever the offers are. There are ways to ensure that your pricing is accurate, that it's competitive in the market. There are plenty of ways to ensure that. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. The meter won't run. I won't turn the meter on when you call, and I'm happy to field your call. Again, my number is 757-434-7656, or you can reach me through bettervantagepoint.com, or LinkedIn, or Facebook, or YouTube. There's a lot. I have more than 100 videos on my YouTube channel, which is listed under Better Vantage Point. So that's what we have for the moment. Again, if you have any questions, call me. Thanks for listening today. Hope you're having a great day, and look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.